I will go live in a few seconds as soon as I adjust and get this thing out of my eye so I can see where I am or I've been. So, good evening. It's 7 o'clock here in the northeast of the United States. I don't know why I say that, but it's where we are. This is the Tibet Center, Kunchab Tardu Ling, a Buddhist meditation and study center under the direction of His Eminence Chabje Ling Rinpoche and the co-direction of Rato Khensa Thupten Nundup, also known as Geshe Nicholas Vreeland, Venerable Geshe Nicholas Vreeland. This is a twice-weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma, specifically the Lam Rim and associated topics. Any problems with the sound of the picture, please let me or Darren Smith know by text. All the prayers we say are on the website in the FAQ section. Scroll down to prayers. If there's anyone who's passed away recently that you wish everyone to pray for, place their names in the chat box as soon as possible. I don't see most of the chat box, so I'll take your word for it. And that's it. So we're continuing with the 16th chapter of Lam Rim Chenmo and related topics, including, I'll give you the menu after we say the prayers. Prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teaching flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi which examines the dharmas, called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound, transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, Asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Refuge in Bodhisattva vow, which of course we say 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So on tap tonight, we'll finish the Milarepa story that we started last night. So we don't want to break the continuity of that. Then we'll hear from Matthew Ricard and his commentators on taking refuge. And then we'll continue with where we left off at Geshe Sopa's comment on the 16th chapter. So it's very important. It's also instructions for meditation, which people forget, but we'll get to that later. First, Milarepa, and this is the last story in the book. We left off last night on page 692, something like that. No, 693. So he had just gotten finished talking about the hell realms. Now he's going to talk about other. His followers asked, tell us about this realm, that realm. So he's going through all these realms. It's like in the Lamrim when they present where you can be reborn if you don't, watch your mind. So this is bottom of page 693. And thus he sang, again the Repas said, the Repas are took his name. If by merely his students, rather, they took his name. If by merely hearing them, one has fear about these sufferings, what must it be like to actually experience them? In other words, it's fearful to hear about things. What if you're really there? Nevertheless, for the sake of sentient beings, please teach about the sufferings of the Treatise. Those are the hungry ghosts. In reply, Milarepa sang this song of realization. It's very instructional, by the way. Someone's at the door. Allow them in.
Hey, buddy, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy.
Why is he out there? He rang the bell?
Yeah, he did. Buddy, come.
Okay.
Tenzin is up there with him.
Oh, all right.
Buddy.
So this is very instructions, I'll say, about how you would wind up in there. I prostrate to the Guru, Lord. Please accept me with compassion to dispel the fear of the lower realms. Hell beings delight in killing themselves, but running away with fear won't bring them any freedom. Since Pretas, those are the hungry ghosts, take appearances as their foe, in other words, what they see frightens them. Where can they run? Everything they see is frightful. Where can they find refuge? Animals eat each other for food. Against whom can they retaliate? With whom can they fight? In particular, the Pretas' suffering is brought about through malevolence and avarice. That's what causes you to be born there. When they are in such a state, they know no virtue. With such miserliness, they cannot bear to eat, and it is not possible for them to give to others. Obsessively on the lookout and hoarding things like a rat, they're never satisfied. Then, what suffering they amass, they inflict on others. When one dies with an attitude of avarice, this is how you would wind up there. When one dies with an attitude of avarice, In the bottle, the perceptions of pretas arise. You have that attitude going into the bottle, then you're going to see things like a preta sees them. That's the nature of our minds and our situation. It's very important, the attitude that you have, the mental attitude at the time of death. With the karma of wrong outlook, they have hunger and thirst. When they see the wealth and enjoyments of others, they develop a malicious and avaricious mind. With such karma, they fall again and again. Myself, a meditator with perseverance, I sing in this melody here for you of the sufferings, causes, and results of pretas. You reppers here, my disciple sons, understand my words and prolong your meditation. Thus he sang. Then Shiwa O said, please also tell us the sufferings of animals. Then Milarepa sang this song of realization. Always 2 lines of praise to the Guru. I prostrate to the Guru, Lord, please accept me with compassion to dispel the fear of the lower realms. Animals are stupid with ignorance. There's a cat in the room listening to this. Stupidity is the cause for most of the animals. By the power of ignorance and negative karma, they do not realize Dharma's truth and do not distinguish between virtue and negativity. They exhaust their lives simply roaming about. They are unable to reason or discriminate. Like a stunned blind man, they do everything out of ignorance. They do not understand virtue and non-virtue. Like a crazy man, they do much wrong. Some mistakenly say it is good. If one does not develop the faculty for finding relief, not good. Those with negativity of killing mindlessly take rebirth as carnivorous beasts. Those deluded about what is good and bad take rebirth as ordinary animals. Those beings that have a dull, stupid mind, in the end will be reborn as animals. Those who have the karmic results of being an animal, there's no end to what can be said about it. Understand this well and train your minds. So you put yourself in these situations. That's the theme of this. Thus he sang, then the Repa said, did Jetson teach the Dharma to the 6 classes of beings while seated in only one place, or did he go to each realm? I went to each of the realms, Milarepa answers. I went to each of the realms, taking a form in accord with the merit of each. In other words, he looks like them. And then taught them the Dharma that was suitable for their minds. So these high bodhisattvas, Buddhists, take various forms. They could be anything. And they teach by gesture, by proximity to people, their demeanor, everything. So that's what goes on. Sounds like fiction, right? But it's backed up by logic. You could study this and realize this is not, it's a doable situation for even us when we ascend to high levels. So, and once each of the realms taken form in accord with the merit of them and taught them the Dharma that was suitable for their minds. All the people who had gathered there to listen to the Dharma, the monks, disciple sons, and lay students, developed fear of the lower realms. With their outlook turned towards the genuine Dharma, they all made effort in the abandoning of non-virtue and the practicing of virtue. On another occasion, the Jetson flew up into the sky and appeared with many different forms. Then all of them converged into one while invisible. And while invisible, he taught the Dharma with a variety of voices. While he was displaying such inconceivable miracles, Saban Repa bound his prana, his energy. Although he had tried to fly into the sky, he could do nothing but move about with his feet on the ground. So he controlled his student's energy. Then the Jetson said, you do not have the devotion towards the Guru, revulsion towards samsara, compassion for sentient beings, pure vision towards Dharma friends, and diligence in practice like I do. These are the tools you're going to need to ascend to his state, in other words. Do not hope for signs of accomplishment without any effort. Furthermore, my disciple sons, without having such virtuous causes, do not hope for the result of happiness. Then he sang this song of realization, and here comes a lot of 2-line pieces of advice that are applicable to not just people hanging around Milarepa's campsite. The cat is going to knock stuff over. Another interruption for our house cat. It's ridiculous. What? I don't know. You're not going to get rid of him without a fight. Maybe he'll just get bored. Anyway, let me get to the important things and not the friggin' cat here. Don't hope for enlightenment in a single life. Here comes the advice. Write this down. Where your karma and many conditions haven't come together. You can in a single life if your karma and conditions have come together, but don't hope for it. Don't hope for the Guru's care without placing your focus upon him. Don't hope to be a master of others without yourself becoming a disciple. Don't hope to be someone on whom others can rely without gaining mastery of your own mind. Don't hope to gain signs of accomplishment and cities without holding a genuine lineage. Yes, those things come through holding the lineage. In other words, doing the practices you were prescribed for and maintaining them, and the vows and the commitments, etc. He goes on, don't hope to attain the enlightenment that you aspire to without being subdued through strong meditation and practice. Don't hope to have bias-free compassion without being free of the bonds of your own attachment. Don't hope to have the view free of extremes without being free of the bonds of clinging to things as real, inherently real. Don't hope to see reality's essence without the pointing out of seeing nakedly. The pointing out of seeing nakedly is a Kagyu term. It's something like in Dzogchen, Chen, pointing out instructions. They study Mambo, which are similar. Don't hope to have unbroken meditation without knowing the method for dispelling stains. Don't hope for the sixfold collection to be relaxed without cutting the fetters from within. Don't hope to experience the great all-pervading essence. Another name for Tathagata, all-pervading essence. Don't hope to experience the Tathagatahood without clear resolve in the experience of samadhi, holding the mind one-pointedly. Don't hope to have this fruition of the three kayas without cutting through all subtle hopes and fears. Don't hope to have the result of temporary happiness without regarding the nature of cause and effect. Don't hope to attain the supreme goal of Buddhahood without gathering the two accumulations to their highest point. Accumulations of merit and wisdom, of course. Don't hope to please your brothers and sisters without acting in accord with the Guru's commands. Don't hope to be free of the devas and ghosts without perfect mastery of self-awareness. Don't hope to overcome samsara's three levels without perfect mastery over appearance. Appearance says, actually. Don't hope to be free of virtuous and negative karma without elevating your mind beyond the ordinary state. Don't hope for your mind to be free of pure and impure if you're a practitioner who he keeps to monasteries. He digs it in here. Don't hope for your mind to be free of pure and impure if you're a practitioner who keeps to monasteries. I think he means you're just laying back and letting the monastery being there is enough from there. You have to be actively all the time fresh on your practice. Don't hope to elucidate for suitable ones without knowing the experiences and signs of accomplishment. Don't hope to have liberation in the bardo without being trained in the key instructions. Don't hope for your aspiration to come to fruition without keeping the trainings and vows appropriately. Don't hope for the dakinis and dharmapalas to be pleased without keeping your samaya pure. Those are the commitments you made, samayas. Do not cross over the river of conventional terms without having scripture, logic, and the key instructions. Do not speak of others outside without having the five higher perceptions. Do not let your mind stream go vagrant without realizing meditation that's without distraction. Then he sang. Thus he sang, rather. On another occasion, whichever monk came to the Jetson's presence, his body remained invisible to them. Some saw a light, some saw a butter lamp, some saw a rainbow, some saw water, some saw a bar of gold, some saw a moving wind, and some saw nothing at all. The Repa Shiwa O said, "What's the reason for this occurrence?" Milarepa replied, "It's like this." And then he sang this song of realization. I supplicate to the Guru, Lord, grant your blessing that it may emanate many forms. Listen, my son, you attractive young Repa. I have gained mastery over the element of earth. Thus, earth too is my very nature. I have gained mastery over the element of water. Thus, water too is my very nature. I have gained mastery over the element of fire. Thus, fire too is my very nature. I have gained mastery over the element of wind. Thus, wind too is my very nature. Because I am trained in the emptiness of space, all phenomenal existence is mixed, inseparable with me. Having mastery over appearances of mind and body, I can emanate as anything. Toward whatever form this miraculous body takes, give rise to devotion and supplicate. In other words, supplicate and devote any form this body takes, he's saying. May you receive the blessings of all the Siddha lords. Thus he sang. Again one day, in front of his disciple sons and faithful male and female students, Milarepa emanated as a teacher of Dharma for each of them, and also as playmates for each of the children playing in the dirt. In short, he displayed a fathomless myriad of emanations. Then his disciple sons asked about the reason for doing this. The Jetson replied, I am a yogi who is aware of all the faults of my own mind. These outer appearances are transformed into whatever I wish, and I have no difficulty emanating and gathering them with my own mind. Thus he sang this song of realization. I prostrate to the Guru, Lord, the Guru's blessing has entered my body. So I attain the miraculous body, the Nirmanakaya. The Guru's blessing has entered my speech. So I teach the key instructions by singing songs. The Guru's blessing has entered my mind. So I have realized mind and accomplished Buddhahood. I am not burned by fire, not carried by water. My conduct is like that of a dancing elephant. Elephants in this context symbolize fearlessness. All beings who are pure through their own or individual perceptions see my body and hear my speech. Because of their accumulations of merit, they're liberated by seeing me. Impure beings, because of their negative karma, do not see my body at all. Through negativity, they experience suffering, and the Buddha's power does not bring them benefit. All of you apply yourself to practicing Dharma. There's no end to what I could say about this. Also, those with negativity, what a shame. Those who engage in wrong conduct will never be liberated. When I see their suffering, my heart aches. We all must prolong our meditation. Without thinking about what you will do in this life, you should think about what happens in the next. Thus he sang, and all of his disciples' sons were overjoyed. And so Milarepa made the Buddha's teachings shine like the sun and established beings in temporary and ultimate happiness. The Lord of Yogis, Milarepa, completely mixed meditation with post-meditation and appearances with mind. For the benefit of beings, he showed his signs of accomplishment and sang songs of realizations. His heart sons, with the Dharani of not forgetting, remembered these stories and wrote them down in letters, which became renowned throughout the realm of humans. Most of the stories and songs are collected here, though it would be impossible to tell them all. This is the cycle of Milarepa's disciple sons developing delight in the display of the many miracles of his body. This also concludes the cycle of miscellaneous stories, thus completing the 3 cycles on how Milarepa gave the teachings of the practice lineage contained within the 8th deed of the Jetson Milarepa's life, how he benefited beings. That's it. So that's the final Milarepa story. We'll come back to other stories in a while. But remember here, you see what your karma allows you to see. So you will see, unless these beings deliberately appear, they'll appear certain ways that you can see them. He appeared as an animal to animals, the hungry ghost. And so that's the situation. Our karma determines the data we can input, take in. So very interesting. So now we turn to our friend and yours, the lovely and talented Matthew Ricard. Before that, I'd like to do from this book a couple of stories of Patrul Rinpoche. Patrul Rinpoche and the Thief. Patrul Rinpoche was like Milarepa. He's the late 1800s. He passed away. Itinerant yogi, very, very experienced, very high realized being, and very non-ordinary. This story, Patrul Rinpoche and the Thief. This was told by Nyoshul Ken Rinpoche. We heard from him last night, who died in 1999. He's Mingyur Rinpoche's guru, by the way. If those of you follow Mingyur Rinpoche, his guru was Nyoshul Ken Rinpoche. So he's telling the story now about Patrul. It was near the monastery of Zamtang. Patrul Rinpoche was sitting not on a throne in a temple, but on a grassy knoll. He had just finished teaching the way of the Bodhisattva, Shantideva's book, in detail to several thousand people when a member of the audience wanted to offer him a horseshoe-shaped silver ingot, a silver bar. As usual, Patrul Rinpoche refused the offering, but the man nonetheless laid the ingot at his feet and walked away briskly. He didn't take any offerings. It was totally like the wind. Soon after, Patrul Rinpoche stood up and went on his way, leaving on the mound all that had been offered to him. A thief, knowing that the master had received a silver ingot, followed him, intending to steal it. He probably took it with him. He left all the other stuff. So Patrul Rinpoche used to travel alone, often without a specific destination, and would spend his nights under the stars. That night, while he was asleep, the robber approached him stealthily under the cover of darkness. Next to Patrul Rinpoche, there was a small cloth bag and a clay pot to make tea. Not finding what he sought, the thief started rummaging surreptitiously in the master's clothing. Then suddenly, awakened by the thief's hand, Patrul exclaimed, "Kaho! What are you doing rummaging in my clothes?" Frightened, the man replied brusquely, "Someone gave you a silver ingot. I must have it. Give it to me." "Kaho!" exclaimed the master again. "Look what a hard life you lead, running right and left like a fool. Have you come all this way for a piece of silver? Poor you. Now listen, go back quickly the way you came, and at dawn you'll arrive at the bank where I was sitting. The silver is still there." The thief was skeptical, but he had searched the master's belongings enough to know that he was no longer in possession of the ingot. It seems most likely that the coveted offering will be in the place indicated. Unlikely, rather, that it would still be there. Who's going to, somebody must have taken it. But he still went back on his tracks. By hunting around the mound, he finally found a piece of silver that Patrul Rinpoche had simply left there. The robber was who was no longer young, lamented, "Ah, Zi, this Patrul Rinpoche truly is a true master, freed of all attachment. By trying to steal from him, I've just created some very bad karma." Tormented by remorse, he retraced his steps in search of Patrul Rinpoche. When he finally found him, Patrul exclaimed, "Kaho, you're back? Always running uphill and down dale? What do you want this time?" Overcome, the thief broke into tears. "I haven't come back to steal anything from you. I found the ingot, and I really regret having acted so badly towards a true spiritual master like you. To think that I was ready to take away from you what little you have. I beg your pardon. Bless me and accept me as a disciple." Patrul Rinpoche reassured him, "Don't bother to confess or ask me for forgiveness. From now on, practice generosity and invoke the 3 jewels. That will be enough." Sometimes later, people got wind of the story and started to beat the thief. When Patrul Rinpoche heard about it, he sharply rebuked them. "If you hurt this man, it is as if you are hurting me, so leave him alone." That's the story. What kind of character thinks that? And this is close to our time. This is not 1,000 years ago like some of these stories. Amazing. So the theme here is there's a lot of little stories that are so good. Taking Refuge. This is chapter 6 on page 73 of this nice book, which I put up on the screen. On the Path to Enlightenment. If you want to get a book to dip into from time to time and get good advice, sometimes you're moody, you don't feel like reading a big, heavy text. This will suit very well. Taking Refuge. Matthew records brief essay. All our lives we try to protect ourselves when our welfare, our possessions, things that are dear to us, or our very existence are threatened. We are looking for safe places to take refuge, and we seek help from those who are able to defend us. But we also spend our whole life suffering from our ignorance and the mental poisons it produces, especially hatred and attachment, and those woes are far crueler and more durable than the simple vagaries of our existence. Why? Because you carry them with you in your mind. Remember, to protect ourselves from such evils, we must go back to their source, namely ignorance. But how can an ignorant person overcome his or her own ignorance? By relying on beings who have already done so and following the path they have traced. They did it, we could do. What did they do? Okay, that's the whole Buddhist path. This is the role of the 3 jewels in Buddhism. The Buddha, which means the awakened one, shows us how to get free from suffering. The Dharma, the path taught by the Buddha, and the Sangha, the community of those who follow the path. In other words, the Buddha is the guide, the Dharma is the path, and the Sangha, the traveling companions. In Vajrayana, the esoteric vehicle of Tibetan and Indian Buddhism, the spiritual master embodies the essence of the 3 jewels His mind is enlightenment or Buddha. His words are the teaching and or Dharma, and his body is the community or Sangha. Everything is contained in one being. According to Buddhism, taking refuge in the wisdom of enlightenment is the first and indispensable step towards liberation from suffering. It's the starting point of the path. Makes sense. The ultimate or inner refuge is none other than our own mind. This is big. The ultimate or inner refuge is none other than our own mind. Through recognizing its essence, the luminous wakefulness of awareness that shines continuously behind the clouds of confusion, one is naturally protected from the very causes of suffering. The luminous awareness behind the skittering, gossiping, blah, blah, blah mind. Underneath is the ability to know. That's always there, mostly overpowered by us. Sometimes you can do an exercise watching not just the breath or whatever you're watching, but beyond that, or visualize the image of the Buddha. What is the awareness that is registering all this? That goes a little deeper down. So I'll read this passage again, maybe you'll get an idea. The ultimate or inner refuge is none other than our own mind, but not our blah, blah mind, not our gossiping mind. To recognize its essence, luminous wakefulness of awareness that shines continuously behind the clouds of confusion, one is naturally protected from the very causes of suffering. Like the sun's behind the clouds, you really can't see it sometimes. It's there, even on a dark day. Preserving the continuum of awareness. We no longer fear the cognitive or emotional obscurations because they no longer affect our consciousness. The continuum of awareness was always around and is never going away. It's eternal, yet it's impermanent because it changes, but it's there. That awareness factor is always there. The function of the external refuge is to lead progressively to the understanding and eventually the realization of the inner refuge. And that's very heavy. I mean, you'll find that in other Buddhist texts too. Zen talks about it obliquely. It's there. A comment from, we're going to hear from two people now commenting on refuge. His Holiness the current Dalai Lama and Padmasambhava. We're going way back. This is currently and way back. His Holiness Dalai Lama, the Tenzin Gyatso, the current Dalai Lama. Through study and reflection, he says, we understand the origin of suffering and how it unfolds and is perpetrated. Then we learn how to reverse this process and acquire the conviction that it is possible to be liberated from it. We also understand how important it is, if we want to break free, to have a correct view of the nature of things, that is to say, emptiness, the absence of independent existence. When we assimilate the meaning of the Four Noble Truths, and particularly the possibility of the cessation of suffering and the path leading to it, excuse me, I can't blame the cat. I'm always sneezing. When we understand the possibility of cessation of suffering, the path leading to it, we acquire an unshakable confidence in the teaching, the Dharma, which is the real refuge. Then in the Sangha, the community of Dharma practitioners, and particularly the followers of the Mahayana, who, inspired by altruistic love, have generated the mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta, and finally in the Buddha or enlightenment itself, which is the ultimate accomplishment of the path of liberation. That confidence is not blind faith. Not blind faith, it is based on real understanding. It's much stronger than a blind faith you can conjure. Padmasambhava on page 75. The cause of wanting to take refuge is fear of the miseries of samsara, trusting the three jewels as a place of refuge, and moreover, accepting the three jewels to be the objects of refuge and protectors of refuge. Through these three, you will give rise to the intention of taking refuge. With what particular attitude does one take refuge? What's the mindset? You should take refuge with a sense of responsibility for the welfare of others. Mahayana. Not my own, but I'm taking responsibility for everyone else who is suffering. You should take refuge with this attitude, as you will not attain true and complete enlightenment simply by renouncing samsara and desiring the result of nirvana. And he has this little quote, in order to free all sentient beings from the miseries of samsara, I will take refuge until I and all sentient beings have achieved supreme enlightenment. That's his little refuge formula, little but powerful. You may ask, if one is protected by taking refuge, does that mean that the Buddhas appear and lead all sentient beings? The reply is that the Buddha cannot take all sentient beings out of samsara with their hands. If they were able to do that, the Buddhas, with their great compassion and skilled means, would have already freed all beings without a single exception. Well then, you may ask, by what is one protected? The answer is that one is protected by the practice of the Dharma. So it's a natural thing. We're suffering, annoyed on a little level, high level, whatever, and we have always going for some relief, some refuge. They're all temporary. All right, let's go out and eat. Let's do this. Let's get a better house. Let's get a. You have to understand the nature of our being, that we are going life to life to life, and the mind is the thing that's leading us everywhere. The mind has to be catered to, and underneath, the mind is just your inner guru. That's a big deal. So understood that way. So, time to hit the books again. Time to go to work. Oh. We'll pick up where we left off, as I promised last night. Geshe Sopa's commentary on the Lam Rim. This is page 243. And Tsongkhapa was talking about, we're discussing the innate, instinctive habit we have of seeing everything as inherently existent and not questioning it. That's it. That's there since beginningless time. Animals have it. Professors at Harvard have it. It doesn't matter if you're educated or not. It's the instinctive thing that's killing us, that's causing us to suffer. Time to get rid of it. We heard about the Tibet Center. That's what we do here in all of the Buddhist centers. So Tsongkhapa quoted that, they were talking about, it's ridiculous to say that someone's worried about a snake in his house. There's no elephant here. That doesn't relieve it. Similarly, meditating on these contrived ideas, partless particles, etc., doesn't get you out of samsara, doesn't relieve that instinct. That instinct has to be cut. And that instinct is bound up with our legitimate thinking mind, with our legitimate self. So we have to separate them. So that's the technique we have to master, the inner mental yoga, whatever you want to call it. So that's the gist of this chapter. We'll pick it up on the top of page 243. Tsongkhapa suggests this reading because of the way the Prasangika system explains ignorance and the object of negation. That topic we just talked of. In order to gain liberation from samsara, we must eliminate its root cause, the ignorance grasping at inherent existence, nothing less, not any fabricated idea we have of reality. This ignorance refers to both the ignorance that grasps at a self of persons and the ignorance that grasps at a self of phenomena. Both types of self-grasping are grasping at inherent existence. They are differentiated only in terms of their basis. What are we looking at? What base object to see? A person, a thing, whatever. The first grasp at inherently existent self of persons, the second grasp at inherently existent self of phenomena. There is no difference between them in terms of subtlety. There's an idea about that, you first, it's more subtle, the selfless the person is more subtle, and the selfless phenomenon, it's the same. And you achieve one, you should be able to achieve both, or the same. He'll continue. When we realize emptiness, the only difference between the emptiness of a self of person and the emptiness of a self of phenomena is the difference between their basis, the object that we're looking at. In one case, emptiness is understood on the basis of a person, and in the other on the basis of other phenomena, a tree, a horse, whatever. Only from the point of view of the bases of emptiness can we say that there's any difference at all. There is no difference from the point of view of the object of negation. Inherent existence itself is the same in both cases. Our instinct to see these things as inherently existent is got to be eliminated. And over again, strong enough so that it doesn't appear anymore and you become a Buddha. So that's a big point. The same applies to ignorance. If we hold things to be inherently existent, then we are grasping at a self of phenomena. If we hold ourselves to be inherently existent, then we are grasping at a self of persons. Both of them are instances of the root delusion, ignorance. Therefore, both of them must be eliminated in order to gain freedom from samsara. That's that. So you got to get rid of the instinctual seeing of everything automatically as inherently existent, which is what we do. We don't see conventional reality. That happens after you've seen emptiness. Then you go, oh, this is conventional reality, just merely nominated, designated, blah, blah, blah. Right now we see inherent existence. I'm sorry, it's not my fault. I see it too. So we should note that the prasangika, that's the consequential school understanding of the two kinds of ignorance, is different from the other Buddhist schools. So now it gets into the weeds. According to the Svatantra Madhyamaka, the ones right below, were big deals. It'll be above every other school, but still underneath the consequential school of prasangikas. According to them, in order to gain liberation from samsara, we must eliminate the egotistic view, the ignorance grasping at a self of persons, specifically with regard to oneself. Yeah, that's what you need. Then you get out of samsara. And the other school says, no, you have to have understanding of both phenomena and persons. Here, the grasping at a self of persons is a mind grasping at the self to be self-sufficient and substantially existent. That's a lesser idea, and it's contrived. It's not the innate problem. It looks good, but it's not getting you out of samsara. Svatantrikas consider this type of grasping is the afflictive obscuration to liberation. You get rid of that, and you're out of samsara. No, you're not. That's the problem, and it's subtle, but it's a big. They hold to something still there. That's it. They hold to a reference point. No reference point. That's they say happens when you experience emptiness. I heard Geshe Dado say this a couple of times. So there's no I and you, and there's no this and that, etc. No reference point when you're in equipoise. So don't freak out. You're not disappearing. So after removing this obstruction, the innate mind grasping at true existence still arises. You're still getting the wrong. Phenomena still appear to be truly existent and are held to exist as they appear. According to the Svatantrikas, even an arhat has this grasping at a self of phenomena. They don't. They contend that grasping at a self of phenomena is not an obstruction to liberation. It's an obstruction to omniscience. That's all. It must be removed to attain perfect knowledge or enlightenment, but it does not need to be removed in order to gain liberation from samsara, and that's not true. According to the Yogacara system, is another one, the mind-only system. The obstruction to omniscience is the ignorance viewing this object and subject as different entities. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the big problem. Perceiving this duality and grasping it to exist as it is perceived has to be removed in order to achieve full enlightenment. But we do not need to remove it in order to achieve liberation from samsara. There's another one with a lesser view. They believe everything is just a projection of the mind, and there's nothing out there externally. Well, how come everybody agrees on well, we all have the same karma that's clicking at the same time, creating these things? And also, they believe the mind is inherently existent. The outside world, just a projection of the mind, but the mind truly exists. So it's a lesser school. So why do we bother with? Because it's a stepping stone. It's easy for people to grasp that, and it preps the mind subliminally to handle the higher truths. So there's a reason. So we don't degrade its teaching of the Buddha. Thus, we can see that Buddhist schools of thought define the grasping at a self of person, the grasping at self of phenomena, differently. Their main objects of negation are completely different. So that's tough, Here we are trying to make a living. Now, regarding the stanza from Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise quoted at the beginning of this chapter, someone asked, when Nagarjuna says that the defining characteristics of a nature are that it is not made by causes and conditions and not comparatively dependent on other things, is he speaking hypothetically, or does that kind of nature actually exist? Tsongkhapa says that the term nature refers to the suchness or reality of phenomena. This is shunyata, emptiness, ultimate nature, true nature, or final nature, however you like it. The final nature is not fabricated. It does not depend on other causes and conditions. Emptiness isn't fabricated. It was always around. That's the way things are. We didn't see it. We still don't, but it's always there. Consider the following example. Form is empty of inherent existence. Hey, we heard that somewhere. Wait a minute. Form is empty of inherent existence. The emptiness of inherent existence of form is the nature of form. That emptiness of form is not dependent on causes and conditions, and it is not dependent on being compared with something else. It is its own true nature, and it was always there. Nagarjuna also mentions a third attribute, not changing from one state to another. Emptiness, in a sense, is permanent. It does not change moment by moment. Moreover, the fact that form is empty and inherent existence is empty of inherent existence and never changes. Form is always empty. This applies to any basis. Emptiness is always there. It's the natural way things are that we don't see. That's all. We're the problem. It's not something newly created. It was always around. So I have a little conventional look at. Here's the conventional nature. In a more general sense, the word nature can refer to a temporary conventional nature. Fire is hot, ice is cold. Yes, in the conventional, that's it. Okay, we'll deal with that. If you put a pen full of ice over a fire, the ice will melt and become hot water. The heat in the water is not the nature of water. The water is made hot by certain causes and conditions. So you get the idea of nature as it's used conventionally. Water is wet. It can be hot or cold, but hot or cold is not the nature of water. The nature of water is that it's wet. A more basic definition of the thing. Why do they do this? So you can deal with these things logically. However, every fire is hot. All right, we know that. There is no fire that is not hot. So we can say that he's the conventional nature of fire. However, heat is not its ultimate nature. Ding. What is its ultimate nature? Everybody else. Emptiness. You're right. The true nature of fire is that it is empty of inherent existence. Being empty of inherent existence is its real or final reality. That reality is the final attribute of any phenomenon. So the question becomes, does this highest reality, described by Nagarjuna as possessing three attributes, exist, or is it the object of negation? If we were to consider this highest reality to exist as a functional thing, then it would be an object of negation. For causally produced functional things are not this higher nature, nor do they possess its attributes. However, this highest reality is not an object of negation in general. It is not totally, although it's not an object of negation, it's not totally non-existent. If we consider this highest nature to exist as shunyata, then it is perfectly affirmed. It is the ultimate nature of things, the final reality of everything. That's all. You're using the word nature in a different way this time. So don't get hung up. And it has the three unique attributes specified above, not produced by causes and conditions. That's right. Emptiness is always around, right? Not established in dependence on comparison with others, no, and not subject to change. The basis of emptiness, the horse, the cow, whatever, all these things that are empty, they change, but the quality of emptiness is always there, always was, always will be. Huh? So when Nagarjuna talks about a nature in this passage, he is not talking about the object of negation. Chandrakirti proves this by citing a sutra in commentary on the introduction to the middle way, Madhyamaka. We'll do this quote probably, a little bit more maybe. Yeah, we'll do a little more. Does a nature having these, this is Chandrakirti now. Does a nature having these special attributes exist as accepted by the Master Nagarjuna? Yes, it is the ultimate reality extensively taught by Buddha, such as whether the Tathagatas appear or not, or do not appear, the ultimate reality of all phenomena abides. That's right. Buddha, just because Buddha taught this, doesn't mean that he created it. It was always there. It's pointing out what is. And Buddha discovered what is when he became enlightened. What is this ultimate reality? Is the final nature of these eyes and so on. Yes. What is the final nature of these things? It is something of theirs that is not made and is not comparably dependent on others. You, me, we're all empty. We didn't cause that. It's just the way we are, but we haven't realized it yet. It is their own essential nature that must be realized by the wisdom that is free from the obscurations of ignorance. Who would say that it does not exist? Who? I want names. Never mind. Who would say that it does not exist? If it does exist, then for what purpose would Bodhisattva, if it does not exist, rather, why would Bodhisattvas cultivate paths of perfections? Because that's what allows them to perfect themselves. It is in order to understand ultimate reality that bodhisattvas undergo hundreds of such hardships. A questioner asks, there's always one. Earlier, did you not disprove that all phenomena exist by their own nature? Tsongkhapa replies, well, did we not already say many times that phenomena without being imputed by the mind do not have even the tiniest atom of an inherently existent nature? It's getting sticky here. Very interesting. So why bother to mention that other phenomena have no such nature? Even shunyata is not truly or ultimately established in the slightest, right? Shunyata itself is empty. Ultimate reality is ultimate, true, and its own nature. However, it does not exist by its own nature. In other words, shunyata is existent, is the highest nature, the final truth, and the nature of all phenomena. However, even shunyata does not exist inherently. Chandrakirti's clear words, and we'll end on this. Just as in the three times, the nature of fire does not alter, the conventional nature, it's hot. The ever-abiding nature of all things is something not fabricated. It is not something that occurs later from what did not occur before. Like the heat of water or here and there or long and short, it is not something that has any dependence on causes and conditions, even mentally dependent. Right? That is what is meant by final nature. Does such a nature of fire exist? It does not exist by its own nature, but it is not non-existent. Although it is like that, we say it exists, conventionally having been superimposed so as to remove the fear of those who are listening. So we'll end it at that, and that's something to think about. Then he's going to talk about ever-abiding nature. So we have to, Darren, do we have any names? No, again, people, we must all be immortal. Oh, Bulla Bulla, Aradna. Steve, good evening. Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. Everybody should have a copy, right? I prostrate to the omniscient. You need a copy?
I have.
You have? All right. I prostrate to the omniscient one. Thus the Buddha Bhagavat, Tathagata Arahat, Samyak Sang Buddha, the learned and virtuous ones, the Sagata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings. The unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He's not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats, who arise in the past, the present, and the future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavat, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Jnana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. No, I have a little other, since we have 2 or 3 minutes, a little quote from Dugo Chensei Rinpoche. At the moment, the natural clarity of your mind is obscured by delusions. We have that natural clarity, we talked about it. But as this obstruction clears, you will begin to uncover the radiance of awareness until you reach the point where, just as a drawing on water disappears the moment it is made, your thoughts are liberated the moment they arise. To experience mind in this way is to encounter the very source of Buddhahood, the practice of the fourth empowerment. When the nature of mind is recognized, it is called nirvana. When it is obscured by delusions, it's called samsara. Yet neither samsara nor nirvana has ever departed from the continuum of the absolute. When realization of awareness reaches its final extent, the ramparts of delusion will have been breached, and the citadel of Dharmakaya, beyond meditation, can be seized once and for all. You're a full Buddha. Here there is no longer any distinction between meditation and post-meditation, and experience is effortlessly stabilized. This is non-meditation in the limitless expanse of Dharmakaya, and recite the 6-syllable mantra, Mani Padme Hum. That way he's giving you a little, but that's talking about that awareness that we always carry with us, that we have to make manifest. So that's the thing that's unborn, unceasing, etc., and so forth that you've heard about. So our next Dharma class is not until next Tuesday night. It will be in New York City at the Settlement House, 273, right? 273 Bowery?
I don't know.
So, yeah. Bowery in Houston. And it's class 273. And it's on the website, by the way. And the class after that, be right back here the following Wednesday night. We will see from our teacher, Nicholas Vreeland, should return the beginning of April, which is now less than a month away. So a couple of weeks. Then he will resume teaching. What else? There's no tarot this Saturday. That's it. Thank you for your patience. This is a very difficult section. It's very nerdy because there are specific terms. There are terms used the way we don't use them in everyday life. So you're liable to get stunned and bored. That's why we have a variety of little things for the class, not just the hardcore text. So persevere, and the reward is a reward that can't even be imagined. So big love. Take care, guys. You're cutting it, or I should?